All right, so welcome Jodine Dixon from Dixon Law. Thank you so much for being here, and we look forward to your presentation on guardianship.
Thank you. So bit of background, I'm an attorney here in Battleground, and I've been practicing about 8.5 years. And one of my practice areas is guardianships, but within the guardianship space, it tends to be families with special needs, children when they're turning 18. And so that's really the bulk of my cases. And so it's setting up the guardianship and or conservatorship, and then the periodic reporting after it's been set up. So the topic for tonight is about periodic reporting. And this is what we do on a regular basis for people like you on the call. Of course, you can do it yourselves. And so when I go through this information, it's for people who like to do it themselves. This hopefully is helpful. But also if you're somebody who likes to have someone like me do it, then it just informs you on what it is that we're doing and what to expect. So a little bit of information, as most of you know, and there's been some comments about it, the guardianship law changed significantly a little over a year ago. It went into effect January 1st of 2022. And I didn't put a slide on it, but maybe I'll just take a moment to highlight what I feel like the changes meant. One area is terminology. And so we used to refer to guardianship of the person and guardianship of the estate, to those two pieces. Now it's guardianship relating to health and well-being, and then the conservatorship is about finances. And so that's one part of terminology. Another part, we used to call them the incapacitated person, and we use respondent. There's a couple other terms, but we don't use that term anymore. And then during the process of establishing the guardianship, we used to appoint a guardian ad litem to do an investigation, and we now call that person a court visitor. Yeah. And so some of the terminology that hopefully that helps of what was changed. Another area that changed with the law is, I guess I would just describe it as the bar for establishing a guardianship and ongoing maintaining a guardianship. It got a little bit higher. So the threshold for showing that somebody needed a guardianship got a little bit higher. And then now, once a guardianship's in place, each time there's periodic reporting, there's an opportunity for that person to speak up and to challenge that and see if it should be modified or ended. So that's kind of the summary of the changes as I see it. And we have all new forms. I guess that's the third area, and that relates to the law change. And so those forms are available on, if you Google guardianship forms WA, it'll lead you to be able to download forms. So Darcy, if we can go to the next slide. So what is the timing around reporting? And so guardianships that were established prior to the law change, we used to get them, if we can stay on that screen, to be, for instance, every 2 years or every 3 years. But now with the guardianships, they want lay guardians to report annually. I am hoping that we can get that sequence extended once lay guardians have shown and proven to the judge that they're capable of doing a proper job of reporting. But I don't think it's law that it can only be annually, but that's currently how it's been done. But the guardianships that were set up prior and set up for every 2 years or every 3 years, we get to stay with that schedule. So there's sort of a mix right now with the timing. In any case, the end date is usually relating to the date that the guardianship began. And so if it's 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years, it's the time period ending with that date that the guardianship was put in place. And so the financial records, the bank statements, et cetera, all need to relate to that period ending. There's about 45 days and to submit the report and supporting information, meaning bank statements. And so there's If you're only a guardian and your guardianship is only about health, then there's that report to fill out and you don't have to worry about bank statements. If it's only about being a conservatorship, then it's only about the financial portion with the bank statements. But if it's both, then it's the full report and the bank statements. So it's filing with the court. If we do it for our clients, we submit online. If it's you doing it on your own, you can mail it in or bring it into the clerk's office. Once the reports have been filed, then there's a duty to send notice to the respondent. So there's this duty to give them notice and a notice period of 2 weeks to make a complaint or ask a question of the court. And so then we wait the few weeks to make sure that no response has been received. And then we submit a motion in order to the court to get approval of that reporting. So that's basically what periodic reporting looks like in terms of what we do and when. We can go to the next slide. So I alluded to some of these things, but it's about what's getting notice to the protected person. So this is what gets reported. So conservatorships, it's about the finances, and really what's important is those bank statements need to show the money coming in and the money going out each month, and it all needs to relate to that protected person. So it needs to be clean, and that's all about the money of that, for that person, and not family members, no mixing of funds. Often it's whatever state support they're getting each month, and often room and board is going out each month with maybe 98% of the money is going out to room and board. There might be some left for other incidentals, but that just needs to, the bank statements need to show that clearly. And if you're having any, McDonald's transactions, it's going to lead to questions with the court. So be very clear about keeping the monies in and out relating to the protected person. And really, most of it's going to be room and board, because that's the state support is usually at a nominal amount, and that's where all the money would go. There's not extra, so to speak. So occasionally we have the protected persons who are able to work, or there might be reasons why they get money. Maybe it was stimulus checks, but a variety of reasons why they might all of a sudden have more than $3,000, and that is problematic with a lot of their levels of support. So if you're having this problem, do some looking online. There could be an ABLE account that you open up. That might be the first thing you think about. Yeah, I would say that's probably the first thing to consider to get it open, especially if they have a job and there's going to be money ongoing. That would be the first go-to item. But there's the Washington State Endowment Fund, if that's appropriate. Sometimes it's a special needs trust if it's a larger inheritance coming. Or another thing to consider, and I'm just going to throw it out there, is that their money can go towards prepaid burial plans or cremation plans. And sometimes when that person has an extra windfall, that's a good time to use that money towards that plan, so that when they pass, that cost is covered. Guardianships require the report. Let's see. So when our office helps people, I'll send out the report that I need them to fill out and request the bank statements, etc. But if they're looking at filling out the report and it looks new and it maybe has language that they're not familiar with, people can make appointments with my legal assistant, and she'll sit down and go through this with you to help fill it out. So that's available when I offer the reporting. And then I have a link here to where those forms are found if people want to do it themselves. Any questions over these points? Okay, so let's go to the next slide.
Go, lay down, go.
So notice to the protected person, this is new from the law change. And so you're either mailing it to them or having somebody hand it to them if they're in the same home, for example. And then they have 2 weeks from when from the notice was given for them to respond. So this is for protected persons that have some capacity but not full capacity. You know, this could be basically is an opportunity for them to challenge the level of guardianship and that's in place. So I haven't had that happen to any of my clients since the law changed, but I've witnessed it to others on the court docket. Any questions about this notice? It's a form. So then the next slide is about getting approval. So most of my cases are here in Clark County, and all of our cases are heard and managed by Judge Retsinas. A couple years ago, we used to have a round robin, and all of our cases were appointed a department when the case was set up, and we were working with all of the judges, and even the probate docket had a rotation of about 5 judges. And so there used to be a real mix, and some judges had different thresholds than others, but now we're dealing with one judge who handles all of guardianships. And so Judge Retsinas is very specific with us attorneys, telling us what she wants to see. She wants to see things stapled. She wants a working papers document. So I'm not going to go into detail, but when we do this for people, we have to follow her suggestions or it's not going to get approved. So we submit a motion and an order when it's timely, when that notice period has completed, and it needs to properly outline the dates for the next reporting period and letters. And then the judge signs it, and then we're usually able to get new letters if needed. It depends when the expiration date is. Going forward, it's going to be almost always that we get new letters each time the judge approves periodic reporting. Back in the old regime, we could get letters good for 5 years. So sometimes we didn't have to get letters when periodic reporting came up, but that's going to happen less and less now. So are most of the cases, Darcy, here on this from Clark County?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So any questions about that process from anybody?
Can I ask really quick about the turnaround for submitting reports? It used to be 90 days, didn't it, to submit reports? So they've now cut it in half. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, she's asking for it in 45. And if you pushed her on the law, she would say that there's 90, but she's really wanting so that if you get the reports filed and then you have your notice and your 2-week notice period, she's trying to get it all done within 2 months max, because then the next year's already coming up. And if there's enough slack in the system, you're kind of finishing one report and starting on the next, is what she's saying.
Oh, okay. Mine's a 3-year reporting, but still we're looking at the 45 days.
Sure.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So really, when that end date happens, you're really pulling all those bank statements together and working on your report.
Well, and I have a suggestion. If anybody out there wants to take my advice, is you'll be printing those bank statements on a monthly basis and having them reconciled and ready to go. So you don't have to get them all at the end of the reporting period, and it will take much longer for you.
Exactly.
So I have a question. I'm out in Skamania County. And so I just turn in documents every 3 years. I don't even think I don't even put statements. I just fill out the forms and drop them off, and they've never ever said anything. So when you're talking about the periodic
reporting, but when's the last time you did it?
2 years ago.
So it's new forms. So at a minimum, you're going to need to get the new forms.
Okay, but
and I would start keeping all your bank statements, because one of these days they're going to require it.
So, but once they get everything, So until this last time, I mean, they never would send me something, say it was approved. They just took them and that was it. Okay, and so when you're talking about state form or monthly form, you want every month for every year or just the year that's due?
No, so if you're on every 3 years, you should show 36 months worth of bank statements with your report, and your report needs to reflect those 3 years.
Okay. Okay, all right,
Okay,
thank you.
so Darcy, was there another page? So letters of guardianship and or conservatorship. So the letters need to cover that full next reporting period and that approval period after. So you give enough grace period to make sure that your letters don't expire. And while you're, in between these reporting periods, all guardians and conservators have a duty to report major changes in health and or finances of the protected person. So for instance, if they move, if their address changes, that's something to report. If their medical situation has taken a serious turn, whether it be positive, negative, or a new piece to it, it's just updating the court, and you're not looking for any approvals. You're just simply filing that we can help people. If we're doing periodic reporting for them, do that for them, or they can do it on their own. But that's just a reminder of what happens in between the periodic reporting.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Sure.
When you're saying letters, what are you referring to? I still haven't got the process of being granted the guardianship that I go to court this month for it. And because of all the changes with the new paperwork, it's taken almost a year. So when you're saying letters, what are you referring to? I haven't got to the report yet.
When a guardianship gets established and the judge agrees and approves, she signs an order, and then you sign, you accept the responsibility, and there's a form that you have to fill out. Once the judge has approved it, you accept those responsibilities and file that document, and then you're entitled to go get letters of guardianship or letters of conservatorship. So that's this 2-page document that the clerk issues, and those are your walking papers to act in behalf of the guardianship or conservatorship, whether it be in the bank or at the doctor's office or anywhere. And so those are the walking papers.
Is that, I do have an attorney that's doing this for me. So they would more than likely get that to those documents to me, correct?
Correct. And so any attorney who's helping you, that should be part of the service, and you'll be getting those updated throughout the life of this guardianship, because they right now will only run for about 3 months after your reporting end date, and then you get a new one for the next reporting period.
And then are these easily done by myself, or is it easier through an attorney, or, I mean, what's
Well,
easier?
no, I don't think it's, I would just say, I don't think it's an easy process for someone who's not an attorney to do. But I'm not here to tell somebody that they can't do it. If you're a DIY person, go for it. I'm not trying to stop anybody, but I find that families of special needs often have very busy lives. And this reporting period, this periodic reporting piece is something that they hand off to us. And currently, we're trying to keep minimum cost for $400. We help you with giving you the report you need to fill out, helping you fill it out if you need it, getting it all filed with the court, doing the notice, and then getting the approvals of the court, and then getting your letters. And so this is, I feel like, a nominal fee, but it's meaningful for a lot of families. And so that's currently what we charge to do this.
And
there's often a $10 fee for the letters.
How often do we have to do these reports?
Well, now the new guardianships are on an annual basis until we're able to get them extended. And so it's going to be each year. The older guardianships had 2 or 3 year increments. So it's just part of the changes.
Right. Okay. Okay, so, so my attorney should help me through that, and then I read something that once I get the guardianship papers, that within, I don't know, was it 30 days or 90 days, I have to do a reporting, and then it's annual, or is it annual from the date that you are granted guardianship?
When you're granted guardianship, there's about 4 things that need to be filed with the court
Okay,
within 90 days. So your attorney should help you with that.
absolutely. I just kind of want to be, yeah. Sometimes I don't understand everything that they're sending me. It's so fast. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, so those things happen once it's established, but the focus of this presentation was once that's established and you're hitting your periodic reporting time frame, what does that look like? And this is just how we do it. To be honest, this is kind of our niche. We don't even have any cases with professional guardians because we just found our niche with families and lay guardians. But this is just a service we provide, and yeah, hopefully it's helpful.
Right. I have a question. So could this fee be paid by the individual, or does it have to be paid by the guardian?
The fees could be paid if there are fees, if there's money in the guardianship, it could be paid out of it. But
Okay.
so it kind of depends if there's funds available, and if not, sometimes it's the parents that pay, but that's basically our fee. It certainly is a legit expense of a guardianship.
Oh.
Hi, John.
Janine. Hey, if anybody needs a referral to Jodine, I can say that she's awesome because she is who I used this last go round, and I will be coming back to see her. It looks like very soon on a yearly basis.
Okay.
Because I don't even pretend to want to deal with all this. It's a lot of work.
Okay.
And now that I
Your
found
little
out that
commercial
Alex,
there.
now that I found out that Alex can pay for it, then I definitely be coming to see her.
I would do.
Oh,
Was there any part of it that anybody wants to kind of dig in further? Sure.
Well, I have, certainly I realize I probably should get out there and redo that guardian training to be more aware of things. I don't know where the time went, but yeah, oops. So I want to ask if I'm planning to have backup guardians, and they're non-family members. So would they seek out an agency like yours? They're not going to be, they may
You
or
know
may
what?
not be compensated.
Let me first, if you Google lay guardianship training, you'll get the link to go take that. So I think that's a great resource. But the standby guardian is no longer part of guardianship.
Oh,
It's not. So if you have a named standby guardian from the prior regime, it's still there. But they don't do it now with new guardianships that have started since January of 2022. So when it's time to change, for instance, from one generation to the next, I can help clients petition the court to ask them to propose a new family member, and the court will assign a court visitor similar to when a guardianship is established, but just for limited scope of identifying if that's a good idea. And they'll come up with a conclusion. If the protected person has assets less than $3,000, then the court will cover that cost for having the court visitor do that work. And then when they make their conclusion, I'll help put a proposed order and then help the transition from one generation to the next, for example.
So I'm not planning for a family member to be this backup guardian thing. I'm stuttering here because it's like, whoa, wait a minute, that's messing up my plans. how do I designate the next guardian if I should die right now? I mean, it'll, you know, I want to have him protected, and I want it to go to a known person. I don't want strangers in the court deciding this. Wow.
I can't think of anything except if I would have to take a look at the periodic reporting and see if you had a special concern and put that in, but really it's, if somebody, there's not a standby, there's not a backup plan, but if there's a way in the periodic reporting to note that, but really it's family member, people who know this person and know what your plans are will have to speak up. So there's not a in place succession plan.
Okay, that just sounds
why they would
wrong.
do that.
Yeah, that sounds so wrong.
Well, to be honest, I mean, if I look at my typical cases, often the parents are co-guardians and there's two of them. And if at some point down the road something happens and one of them can't do it anymore, maybe they can't. But usually then there's a transition when people choose to hand it off to the next generation or to a professional if they want. But people take it upon themselves, especially if they've been diagnosed with some health condition and they know that they're really not up for the challenge anymore. But I don't know of a succession plan in place as it relates to these guardianships with the courts.
So making sure that like people in your life know like your plans and because like this is the big issue, like that what happens when we're gone. And if we're not able to plan for that, and it just seems like that's our biggest fear is like, oh, I don't know who, when something happens to me, this is like my plan, and to have that taken away is scary.
Sure. Well, estate plans are always important regardless of who you are. I do estate planning, but when you have a protected person in the family, often the estate planning is special as it relates to what their inheritance looks like. And especially when we have minor children, we talk about who would be the guardians of those children. So there's nothing stopping us from putting language in our wills or trusts that say, this, I take care of this person, and if I can't do it, this is who I want to do it. Not a problem, but I wouldn't say you don't go amending it every 5 years, or, I mean, that's a place where you can put it, but it's not the only place. And so it's about getting the word out, and let's just take the to-do even after to see if there's a way to put it in the language in the periodic report so that we've kind of established the record. There's nothing stopping us from putting in those blank places that, you know, if something happens to me, this is who I want to do it.
I have a question. So right before the change, I got the co-guardian moved and they put him down as standby. So now that doesn't really, they still can't do anything.
There's still a
standby.
standby. So for instance, if the court was trying to get in touch with you or, you know, if something you weren't responding, they still can reach out to them because they're on record as being the standby. They're just not putting standby names with any new guardianships anymore.
Okay.
All right, so obviously this is going to take some more, but off the cuff, can I, rather than have now, can't call a standby, but so what if I just add one more person to guardianship? I mean,
so you don't have the ability to add. What you can do though is petition the court to add a co-guardian. And that's something that you can do, and it's a process. It's a several step process, and I can help people that need to do that. And it's just, it's a process and therefore a fee.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, that's certainly reasonable. And so I'm wondering then if it could look like that, where we go ahead, petition, add the person we wanted to have as our standby to just make them a co-guardian. Then if something should happen to us, there's nothing they have to do other than add their own backup guardian or co-guardian. So
yeah, I mean, if you have a co-guardian situation and one of them has passed away, we inform the court what happened. So all the records are updated, but then you're still the guardian, and then it's up to you to decide if you want to bring on a co-guardian or not.
Okay, big sigh of relief here. Okay,
Sure. And if you bring on a co-guardian, you might not have them directly involved in the reporting, but you should show them what you've done and how you did it, so that if they had to do it the following period, that they'd know how.
I have a question.
Sure.
I'm guessing that the lawmakers are doing this to protect the protected people more, but do they really have any comprehension of how much more work it's creating for the guardians that are already? I mean, there's a lot of parent provider guardians that are already doing a boatload of work to begin with. Are they understanding the extra work this is creating and the extra expense?
You know what? I would just say that I think that our lawmakers and the courts primarily are thinking about guardianships in terms of adults when they show up at the hospital and they don't have capacity and a guardianship gets put in place. I don't think special needs when they turn 18 is what they have in mind.
It may not be what they have in mind, but it's the fallout from the changes affect us.
It's Britney Spears, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's a special case, but yeah, if you're keeping your monthly bank statements and money's coming in and money's going out every month for room and board, it shouldn't be too big of a job to get your periodic reports together.
Oh, getting them together. It's the filing that this last time, our first time, I hadn't been doing it monthly, but I went into my credit union and they printed out 3 years of statements, actually 39 months worth of statements for me. But after kind of getting them organized, and I keep track of all monthly expenses in a folder anyway, I said, you know what, I'm going to start getting them monthly and staying up on this, so that at any point, if they want to go back 3 years, I've got a row of notebooks up there. We can go back 3 years and then save 3 years before that in case they want to go back over it again. So you could have 6 years, but staying on top of it, it's the filing and just the filing. It's like, I operate on the assumption that it's a fool who represents himself. It's when you go onto the legal battlefield, it's you need a lawyer, and
Absolutely.
So
it's
if
a
we
lot,
were-
and it's so easy to make one little mistake. Of course, I've come up with the defense. It's like, hey, if you don't like the way I'm doing it, here, you do it, because I'm tired of doing it. But I don't think that would probably work too well. But that's how I feel, because it just seems like, well, and this is a really trying time right now with reapplying for Social Security, which he already has because it's going on my account. And
Oh,
it's just, it just seems like the older he gets, the more work it's turning into, and it's turning into more and more work and more.
But we'll try to make it as easy as we can.
Yeah. Well, it certainly helps that Alex can pay for it, because, well, the way his finances work, he does have a little extra money, and we are going to have to do an ABLE account because he's going to get an increase in Social Security when it finally gets approved, and there's going to be back pay involved because it'll go back to when we applied, which is already now back in June. So there's going to be not a huge amount, but in regards to $2,000 or $3,000, it's going to put him over that threshold, and he can't have over $2,000 at the end of the month, or he's going to lose more benefits. So EBT will be the first to go, I think. And so I'm going to have to get an ABLE account, which I've been putting off, but I need to do it.
Mhm.
And more work. So, and plus, We've also, he's been working with a job developer with DVR or through Employers Overload through DVR. And he's actually started doing some job assessments. So he's going to start having a paycheck, which will be more reporting through Social Security and more finances to keep track of.
Just get that ABLE account and that'll be a nice slush fund.
Yeah, it's his little emergency fund. So, which, yeah. So anyway, it's just, I don't know. When our politicians, every action seems to have a reaction, and they're creating a lot of extra work for all of us here. And I'm sure there's a lot more of us out there, but to protect,
I just want to insert that Wednesdays during legislative session is Advocacy Day. So contact Peace Northwest or probably Darcy here to find out how you can put a voice into your local legislation too.
yeah,
He's
Yeah.
done that too before. So like our big takeaways, Jodine, are like whether we use your services or another attorney for our reporting or do it ourselves is like keeping good records, keeping your bank statements, and staying on top of that.
Yeah, I mean, make sure the money's coming in and money's going out. Make that clean. Don't let the monies build up. Don't
How does that look, though?
mix personal
I mean-
expenses.
Yeah, how's that look? Because like, I mean, he has his or pay representative account. And then in the memo, I just put utilities board and items. Is that supposed to be more than that?
But usually, I mean, if he's living with you, then his room and board is going to be 90% plus of that amount that goes to you.
But I just have to put like room and board. And I just put it in the memo of the transfer.
Yep, room and board.
Okay. I was just wondering. Okay, all right. 'Cause
Sure.
I didn't know it was like more because you guys have real detail. How much more do I have to put? So I didn't
No.
know what that's supposed to look like. Okay,
Mhm.
thank you. And how long before we can throw stuff away?
Once the court has approved it, I mean, it's good. I would say no more than 3 years. I mean, if
Just keep reading.
it's been approved, don't keep it more than 3 years after that.
Okay, great. Okay.
I do have a question, Jodine. Okay, you're saying that 90% of his income could go to board and room. And this is something I've been thinking about, and I didn't realize this was a topic tonight, so this is really good. But when he starts collecting off my account, he's going to get an increase on Social Security. But in order to, so that would be the time to raise his board and room then to help keep his assets down.
You know what? You just need to look at it because I feel like it's kind of hard to know what room and board's worth when the person is at home, because often people have been taking care of that cost since they were born and it's just part of the household expense. But it's a
Yeah.
portion. You can divide it by the number of people or whatever those monthly expenses are. But if you think about what the cost would be if they had to live somewhere else, it's much more. And really the support you're getting from the state is to make sure their room and board is covered. So I'm not going to go through the numbers because I don't know your living situation, but really it's in most cases, it's a good 90% plus that goes towards that room and board.
But my question is, when you do the report, you file with the court what he is paying for room and board, so you can't just raise it without reporting it or petitioning the court, or?
No, your reporting's gonna show the change in income and you're gonna show a new budget for what you're doing with the money.
And
Okay,
it's
so
important to share that with Social Security as well, right? That you're charging more.
They get reported as well, but this is right for the courts. Because
Okay, so
every time we do
I-
periodic reporting, we have a budget to show.
so I can change the budget without having to petition the court?
You don't have to petition the court, but like I said earlier, there's a duty to inform the court if the financial situation has changed. So let's just say that somebody went from earning $800 a month to $1,700 a month. You can just do a notice to the court that says FYI, their monthly income changed. But when the periodic reporting comes, you're gonna show a new budget.
So how do you FYI the court?
There's a change in circumstance form that you can file. It's pretty short and sweet.
Change of circumstance form?
And I can help you with that if needed.
Okay. So yeah, we've got two things that are going to, he's going to eventually get an increase in Social Security. And when he starts work, he's going to have some income from that. So the income will have to be reported to Social Security. And I'm not exactly sure how often, but that's going to be fairly easy, but it'll be also needed to be reported to the court as well. So
Sure.
it's gonna
But
be the increase.
if there's earned income, you really should have an ABLE account.
Yeah, well, the ABLE account is, I'm no longer going to be able to put it off. I need to address it and get it taken care of.
Where do you get an ABLE account? How do you establish one?
It's fairly simple. It's all online. And
Oh.
yeah,
If you look up just the Washington ABLE account, it'll be there.
Yeah, exactly.
we've also
Likewise
done
for the-
a recording of we had Commerce who manages ABLE accounts in Washington State do a presentation. We have a recording and his PowerPoint. So I can share that as well as Jodine's PowerPoint to all of you after this
Please.
meeting. Okay.
That'd be
Please,
wonderful.
please.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I ask a quick question? You said this year the Social Security went up because of increases, whatever. Do we need to look for to know that a little bit?
So, Erica, you came across my feed really garbled. It helps if we
Okay.
are not actively speaking to have our screens on mute. It helps everybody's feed and of course cuts down on background noises. So Erica, perhaps if you could say it again, but speak slowly.
When you Social Security increase the amount everybody gets from Social Security at the beginning of the year, do we need to notify the courts of that increase?
It was about reporting an increase.
Yeah, like Social Security increased everybody's income. Do we need
You
to
know
let the
what,
courts
if
know that a
it's-
little bit?
I wouldn't worry about it. If you're getting a nominal increase, we're just going to reflect that in the periodic reporting when that comes through. It's just if there's the notice of change is for when something significant is changing.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
If I could ask about the significant change, how do you really determine what is significant versus not significant?
Well, I don't know if there's exact guideposts, but if they move from one address to another, that's a change. They want to know about where that person is. If their income, let's just say it's $800 or $900 a month and it changes to $1,500, that's significant in terms of percentage wise. It's not just a inflation kind of change. It's almost doubled. If they, for instance, have been mobile all their life and they're all of a sudden not mobile anymore, that would be a change in health circumstance. So if you, is that helpful?
It is. I think my question was kind of along the financial side because my brother is interested in paid employment again. And so we're going to get hooked up with DVR pretty soon. And, his last employment, I think he made like $400 a month. So that I'm guessing maybe a significant increase in income. If he were to get something similar like that is probably going to be, I would say between 5 to 10 hours a week, if that.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that it's significant, but we certainly would report it with periodic reporting, but an ABLE account for, a boost of income just is probably a good idea when people are earning.
Okay, I'm in the same boat as John. I've been kind of just holding off on the ABLE account. So I'm in your same boat, John. I'm going to work on that.
Well, when you get it figured out, you can help me.
Well, I don't think it'll take too long. I just, I know you've, it's just the one more thing kind of thing. And so
Yeah.
we'll get it going. I know, I think the whole reason we're going to open the ABLE account is because with that extra income, he wants to travel. And I know that travel is a qualifying expense for ABLE accounts. And so, but I have a hard time with, you know, if we're going to go across the United States to visit our sister this summer, you know, it's $600-700 a ticket. And so how do we pay for that? You know, how do I call Southwest and say, hey, I need to pay for this when I only have $200 left for the month? So I need to figure all of that out too. How do we pay for it the way we're expected to? I don't know.
Yeah.
The somebody had mentioned the burial, setting up burial things, and I was told actually when Alex's mom passed away, I bought, well, we hadn't made our arrangements, so we bought a plot for her, and I also bought a plot thinking that it would be smart to have it. And Alex never really asked for a lot, but he wanted to be buried next to his mom, so I bought a third plot. And I was told though that if it was in his name, it would count as assets.
No, I think it's one of those exceptions. That's one of the things that money can go to, and it's not going to go against you.
Because, well, somebody explained it to me, it was assets because you could actually sell it. It's
okay, so to be honest, I've done prepaid burial plans, and so those are within the state of Washington. If you go to a funeral home and get it, it can work anywhere in the state. And so those plans are protected. If it's something that can resell, possibly, maybe you make a point. I'm not 100% sure on that.
and I'm not either. And at this point, it's not in his name, so it doesn't matter. But
no, but a prepaid plan for a person is should be fine.
okay, that would definitely be different, I think. So
Can I speak to that a little bit? I want to
Sure.
say that it might be beneficial to call, well, like with my brother, he gets his financial eligibility through long-term care. And they have specified a certain dollar amount, and I want to say it's maybe $1,500. I could be wrong on that, but you may want to check with whoever, although he lives with you. My brother's lives in an adult family home and gets his, I don't know if I'm saying all this right.
But
Medicaid.
when it's been, oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
It's just been handy for some clients that had a windfall that they weren't expecting, or they hadn't been making proper expenditures, and all of a sudden they had to get down. And one legit way was to do a prepaid plan.
how about a new TV to decrease assets? Is that a legitimate expense?
I mean, if you've covered room and board and their day is about playing basketball and you want to get a new setup, I mean, it's money for them. So I'm not saying it's not okay, but you need to cover room and board first.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's every month his assets are growing a little bit, and he has his TV on all the time, so it's an important part of his life, and eventually it's going to have to get replaced. And
Sure.
I guess you gotta, and I don't know, it's
The answer is yes, then that would be a legit way to use his
okay, because I
funds.
don't want to get in trouble with the court, and either way, too much or spending it wrong, or it just, but yeah, all these little things we have to think about. Do we do it or not? Can we do it or not? Or how do you do it? So yeah, it's yeah.
All right.
That's why
find the
we need
courts really
Jodine.
vicious? Do you find the courts, when we're trying to do our best and our due diligence, if we make a mistake, are the courts really that vicious to us where they're gonna like, I mean, is that something that's normal?
No, but if you have more than $3,000, it's the
Yeah.
state that can withhold the funding. So that's just, they're all trying to keep people from getting in trouble. And with guardianships in Clark County, I mean, Judge Hatsina runs a pretty tight ship, and so you'd rather not be in her crosshairs.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure,
if
sure.
you make it like a little mistake on, I mean, I'm not saying they got thousands of dollars hidden or
Yeah.
stashed away, but like, it's like if you actually bought some, it wasn't under the criteria, are they gonna like take away their funding for months on end or? I mean,
No,
is it
no,
that?
they're not. And they, you know, the courts are not a source of the funding, but they're just, you know, making sure that the person's needs are being met and
Yeah.
that you know, they're doing their job.
Yeah, well, we're all trying to do our due diligence, but I mean, like I said, I understand being below the 3,000, the 2,000, but it's like, gosh, sometimes you know, if they need something and if it doesn't fit, I'm like, I don't know. Okay, I just want to make sure. I'm like, oh, this is scary. Everybody talks about going to jail.
No, it's
so,
not
oh,
scary. There's
I can't
just,
do that.
you know, 10, 15 years ago, there wasn't that much oversight on guardianships, and it's changed a lot. And now the law has changed. And so we're just rolling with it because there was probably not enough oversight in the past. Guardianship reporting just kind of dwindled. In some cases, there was no conversation between the guardians and the courts for years. So
Yeah, 'cause I'm
it's
like,
kind of a
maybe
pendulum
hire
thing, and that's where we are right now.
I was like, maybe it might be better to have somebody else be the guardian. I could just be mom.
Boy.
Deal.
Wouldn't that be, so I was just talking to somebody about that today. It's, you know, your guardian, authorized representative, representative payee, and dad or mom. And God, wouldn't it be nice to just be dad again or mom again?
Mhm.
I'm straddling my emotions with that. I have good staff right now for Chris, and I'm actually now a scheduled visitor, and I have my time on Tuesday and my time on Thursday, and it's just like, oh no, he doesn't need me.
That's a good thing, though. That's a good thing. That's kind of the goal, isn't it, Lynn? To the independent living. I mean,
Yes, it's
not
the goal.
dependent independent living, but independent living. It's kind of you're kind of our role model here.
Well, now I'm feeling like the dependent mom, you know. It's just like, oh.
A little too needy. Well, so supposedly the peace of mind that like these little extra steps give us, right? To that we avoid because it's like just one more thing, but like then it frees up our time to be the mom or the dad, or like that's what I keep telling myself. Is that okay? It sounds like this big hassle, but so my daughter Zoe turned 18 2 years ago, and so starting to put in place like the little pieces, and like she has this endowment trust with Washington State, and like creating that like a life insurance that would fund the trust if something were to happen to me, and figuring out all those things. It's like, okay, I still have a lot more to do, but the little peace of mind that it gives me as I do one more step is worth it, I guess.
Sure it is.
Yeah.
Sure it is.
Mhm.
Well, I'm going to sign off. And if people want contact, I guess, Darcy, you can help them.
I will share your slides and your contact information. We so appreciate you. Thank you so much for taking time to do this.
And Jodine
Sure.
is awesome.
you,
I'll put in another shameless plug for her. She is awesome. I will be using her again. And thank you
Thank
for
you.
the
Thank
past.
you.
Thank you for being here tonight. And when I need you again, I will look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Darcy, for the